The night had settled gently over the world, as if it had arrived not to interrupt, but to soothe. The moon hung high in the sky, full and calm, casting a pale silver light across the quiet path. There was no rush in the air, no sharp edges to the moment. Everything felt softened, as though time itself had slowed to a peaceful breath. He stepped outside without a destination in mind. The door closed behind him with a muted sound, and immediately the stillness welcomed him. The ground beneath his feet was cool and steady, grounding him with every step. Above, the moon watched silently, offering its light without asking for attention. With each slow movement forward, the weight of the day began to loosen. Thoughts that once felt tangled now drifted apart, becoming lighter, less urgent. The night did not demand answers. It simply allowed him to walk, to exist, to breathe. A gentle breeze passed by, brushing against his skin like a quiet reassurance. It carried the faint scent of earth and distant trees, a reminder of simple things that never rush. He inhaled deeply, feeling the air fill his lungs, then exhaled just as slowly, as if releasing the last traces of noise from his mind. The path ahead was softly illuminated, neither bright nor dark, just enough to guide him forward. Shadows stretched and moved with him, calm companions rather than something to fear. Every sound was subtle, the distant call of night insects, the quiet whisper of leaves, the nearly inaudible rhythm of his own footsteps. As he walked, he noticed how natural it felt to move without purpose. No schedule waited for him. No expectation followed him. The night asked for nothing more than presence. In that presence, his shoulders relaxed, his breathing deepened, and a gentle calm began to settle within. The moonlight seemed to rest on everything it touched, turning ordinary shapes into something softer, almost dreamlike. The world felt safe in its silence. Wrapped in this peaceful atmosphere, he continued forward, unaware of how far he had gone, and unconcerned with where the path might lead. This was only the beginning. A quiet step into stillness, a soft invitation to let the night guide him gently onward. The stone path revealed itself gradually beneath the moonlight, each uneven surface catching a soft glow before fading back into shadow. It felt old, patient, as if it had been waiting quietly for footsteps like his. He walked more slowly now, letting each step land with care, listening to the gentle rhythm created by stone and silence. The cool texture beneath his feet reminded him that this path had existed long before this night. Countless moments had passed over it, unnoticed and unrecorded, yet still present in its worn surface. There was comfort in that thought. Nothing here demanded urgency. The stones simply remained, steady and reliable. As he moved forward, the sounds of the world grew even quieter. The distant noises faded, replaced by a deeper calm that seemed to rise from the ground itself. His breathing matched his pace, slow and even, as if the path was guiding not only his steps, but his thoughts as well. Moonlight traced gentle lines along the stones, creating patterns that shifted as he walked. He found himself watching these small changes, feeling a simple curiosity, free from analysis or judgment. The act of noticing became enough. A sense of ease settled over him. The path did not challenge him, nor did it rush him. It invited him to continue at his own pace, reminding him that moving forward did not require effort, only presence. Each step felt like a quiet agreement between him and the night. Memories surfaced briefly, not as sharp images, but as soft impressions. They passed without pulling him backward, drifting away like mist. The stones beneath him absorbed the weight of these thoughts, leaving him lighter with every step. The road curved gently ahead, disappearing into the calm glow of the moon. He did not feel the need to see where it ended. It was enough to know that the path continued, steady and welcoming, offering the simple comfort of forward motion. And so he walked on, guided by stone, moonlight, and the quiet reassurance that he did not need to hurry. The stone path slowly gave way to the presence of trees, their tall forms rising quietly on both sides of the way. Their branches reached outward, creating a gentle canopy that softened the moonlight as it filtered through leaves and thin twigs. The night felt deeper here, but never heavy, only calm and embracing. A soft breeze moved between the trees, stirring the leaves with a low, soothing whisper. It was not a sound meant to be noticed all at once, but something felt rather than heard. The air brushed against his face and hands, cool and refreshing, like a quiet greeting from the forest. He slowed his pace, allowing the moment to unfold without interruption. Each breath felt cleaner, lighter, as if the trees were sharing something ancient and peaceful with him. The scent of bark and leaves filled the air, grounding him further in the present. The branches swayed gently above, casting slow-moving shadows that danced across the ground. He watched them without thought, finding comfort in their unhurried motion. Nothing here rushed or demanded attention. Everything moved in its own natural time. The breeze carried subtle sounds, the soft creak of wood, the distant rustle of leaves brushing against one another. These small noises blended into a quiet harmony, a natural rhythm that calmed his mind and softened his awareness of everything else. He paused for a moment, standing still among the trees. The night seemed to breathe with him, inhaling and exhaling in a shared stillness. In this space, thoughts faded easily, replaced by a simple sense of belonging. When he began to walk again, his steps felt lighter, almost effortless. The trees continued to whisper softly as he passed, as if acknowledging his presence without needing words. Wrapped in the gentle movement of air and leaves, he moved forward, carrying the calm of the forest within him. The moon stood quietly above, steady and unchanging as he stepped out from between the trees and onto a more open stretch of the path. Its light fell gently across the ground, creating long, soft shadows that moved with him. Among them was his own shadow, stretched and reshaped by every step, following without effort or sound. He noticed it without curiosity at first, simply as a presence. Then, slowly, he became aware of how calmly it mirrored his movements. When he slowed, it slowed. When he paused, it rested with him. There was something reassuring in that silent companionship, a reminder that nothing here was separate or alone. The shadow shifted as clouds drifted lazily across the moon. Light softened, then brightened again, as if the night itself were breathing. He felt no need to look up constantly. The moon's presence was already felt, steady and patient, guiding without instruction. His footsteps were quiet now, blending with the stillness of the open space. The ground reflected the moonlight in muted tones, never sharp, never bright enough to disturb the calm. He watched the way his shadow stretched ahead of him, then slipped behind, changing shape, but never leaving. With each step, his thoughts slowed further. The shadow seemed to absorb what remained of the day's noise, pulling it away gently. There was no reflection, no judgment, only motion and light, and the soft passage of time. He paused again, standing completely still. The shadow stilled too, In that moment, he felt suspended between movement and rest, between light and dark. The moon hung above, distant yet familiar, offering its quiet attention without expectation. A faint breeze crossed the open ground, barely touching him. It caused his shadow to ripple slightly, as if alive for a moment, then settle again. He exhaled slowly, allowing the calm to sink deeper, spreading through his shoulders, his chest, his thoughts. When he resumed walking, his steps felt lighter than before. The shadow followed faithfully, stretching across the path, a gentle reminder of his presence in this peaceful night. There was comfort in knowing that even without sound or direction, something remained with him. The moon continued its watch, casting the same soft light, asking nothing in return. Beneath it, he walked on, unhurried and calm, allowing the night to carry him forward with quiet grace. The path gently narrowed as it led him toward the sound of flowing water. At first, it was only a faint presence, a soft murmur carried on the night air. With each step forward, the sound became clearer, calmer, until it formed a steady, soothing rhythm that seemed to guide him onward. Soon, a small stream appeared beside the path, its surface catching fragments of moonlight as it moved. The water flowed without hurry, gliding over smooth stones, creating a quiet melody that filled the space without overwhelming it. He slowed, then stopped, drawn naturally toward its edge. He stood there for a moment, simply listening. The sound of the stream felt timeless, as if it had been flowing long before this night and would continue long after. There was comfort in its consistency, in the way it moved forward without resistance or force. The moon's reflection shimmered gently on the surface, breaking and reforming with every small ripple. He watched as the light danced across the water, never settling, never disappearing. It reminded him that movement did not have to disturb peace. It could exist within it. He lowered himself to sit near the stream, resting on the cool ground. The air felt slightly cooler here, touched by moisture and the quiet energy of flowing water. He placed his hands loosely at his sides, letting his body relax fully. Each breath deepened as he listened. The stream seemed to wash over his thoughts, smoothing them out, carrying them away one by one. There was no need to follow them. The water did that work for him, gently and patiently. Occasionally, a small ripple would form as water passed over a stone, creating a soft change in sound, then returning to its steady rhythm. These subtle variations held his attention without effort, guiding his awareness deeper into calm. Time felt different beside the stream, slower, softer. The world beyond this moment seemed distant and unimportant. Here, there was only moonlight, water, and quiet presence. After a while, he rose slowly, careful not to disturb the stillness he had found. The stream continued on its path, unchanged by his visit, offering the same gentle song to the night. With a final glance at the flowing water, he turned back to the path, carrying the calm of the stream with him as he walked onward. The path curved gently beyond the stream, opening into a quiet clearing where the night sky felt closer, wider, and more present. The air was still here, as if the world had paused to listen. He slowed his steps, sensing that this place invited attention without asking for it. Ahead, the water widened into a calm, shallow pool. Its surface lay smooth and undisturbed, like a mirror placed carefully upon the earth. The moon hovered above and below it. Its reflection rested softly in the water, perfectly shaped yet gently trembling with the smallest movement. He approached the edge and stood in silence, The sky above and its reflection below seemed to meet in a quiet balance. Stars appeared both overhead and beneath his feet, creating the feeling of being held between two skies. There was no need to look anywhere else. He breathed slowly, feeling the stillness settle deeper within him. The reflection did not demand his focus, yet it held it effortlessly. Light and water shared the same calm language, speaking without sound. A faint ripple crossed the pool, barely noticeable, softening the reflected stars. Instead of breaking the calm, it deepened it, reminding him that perfection was not required for peace. Even gentle movement belonged here. He lowered himself to sit near the water's edge, careful and unhurried. The cool air touched his skin lightly. He felt supported by the ground, steady and patient beneath him. Above and below, the sky remained endless and quiet. Thoughts drifted by, slower now, like clouds moving across the moon. He did not follow them. He allowed them to pass, knowing they would fade on their own. The reflection remained, calm and constant, even as the surface shifted. For a long moment, he stayed there, suspended between earth and sky, movement and stillness. Time softened, losing its edges. There was no sense of before or after, only now. When he finally stood, the reflection adjusted, reshaping itself without resistance. The sky accepted this change without disturbance. Everything remained in balance. He turned back toward the path, carrying with him the quiet understanding that calm could exist in both stillness and motion. The moon continued to shine, and the reflected sky slowly faded behind him as he walked on. The path stretched forward in a gentle line, neither inviting nor resisting his steps. There were no signs, no markers, nothing to suggest where it led or why. For the first time, he felt no need to know. He continued walking simply because the night allowed it. His steps became softer, lighter, as if guided by instinct rather than intention. Each footfall landed quietly, absorbed by the earth without echo. There was comfort in this lack of direction, in the freedom of moving without a destination waiting at the end. The air around him felt open and spacious. Without a goal to chase, his mind loosened further, releasing the habit of planning. The night did not ask him to arrive anywhere. It only invited him to remain present, step after step. He noticed the subtle rhythm of walking, the slow swing of his arms, the gentle rise and fall of his breath. These small, steady motions formed a kind of meditation, grounding him in the simplicity of movement. Nothing else was required. Occasionally he paused without reason, standing still for a few breaths, then continued on. There was no urgency pushing him forward, no pressure pulling him back. The path accepted both motion and rest with equal ease. Moonlight followed him, stretching across the ground, fading and returning as clouds drifted by. Shadows shifted calmly, never sharp, never alarming. Everything around him seemed to move in quiet agreement with the pace he had chosen. Thoughts surfaced now and then, but they felt distant, like sounds heard through a wall. They no longer demanded attention. His focus remained on the present moment, on the gentle certainty of each step. Walking without direction became a gift. With nothing to reach, he found himself fully where he was. The night felt generous, offering space rather than instruction. And so he continued, guided not by destination, but by the calm assurance that every step, taken without hurry, was enough. As the path rose gently, a quiet view opened before him. In the distance, small points of light appeared, scattered softly across the horizon. They were faint and warm, resting low against the darkness. He recognized them as distant villages, settled into sleep beneath the same moon. He stopped without thinking, simply to observe. The lights did not flicker or move. They remained steady, patient, as if guarding the silence rather than breaking it. There was something deeply comforting in knowing that others were resting nearby, unseen and undisturbed. No voices reached him from that distance. No movement disturbed the night. The villages existed as a quiet presence, a reminder of human life carried gently within the calm of the world. It felt peaceful to know they were there, yet far enough away to leave the stillness untouched. A soft breeze passed through, carrying the cool scent of night. It brushed past him and moved onward, unbothered by paths or boundaries. He breathed it in slowly, feeling connected not only to the land beneath his feet, but to the quiet lives resting beyond his sight. The lights seemed almost to float, softened by distance and moonlight. They blended into the darkness, becoming part of the landscape rather than standing apart from it. Nothing here competed for attention. Everything shared the same gentle tone. He stood for a long moment, allowing the scene to settle into him. The silence felt deeper here, enriched by the knowledge of sleep and rest happening elsewhere. The world felt held together by quiet agreement. When he resumed walking, the distant lights remained behind him, slowly fading as the path curved away. Yet the sense of calm they brought stayed with him, like a soft reassurance carried within. The night closed in again, wrapping him in stillness as he continued forward, guided by moonlight and the peaceful understanding that the world, for now, was resting. The path dipped gently, and with it came a subtle change in the air. The night carried a richer presence here, layered and deep, filled with quiet scents that revealed themselves slowly. He noticed it with a calm awareness, as if the air itself were inviting him to breathe more deeply. There was the faint smell of cool earth, slightly damp with evening dew. It reminded him of open ground after sunset, of soil resting beneath the stars. Beneath it lingered the soft trace of grass and leaves, clean and natural, untouched by urgency or noise. He slowed his pace, allowing each breath to become fuller. Inhaling gently, he felt the night enter his lungs, calm and steady. Exhaling, he released what little tension remained, letting it drift away unnoticed. As he walked, the scents shifted subtly, never sudden, never sharp. At times the air carried a hint of wood and bark. At others, a whisper of water lingering from the nearby stream. These quiet changes anchored him to the moment, keeping his attention grounded without effort. The night felt alive in a gentle way, not through movement or sound, but through presence. Each breath became an experience, a soft connection between him and the world around him. There was comfort in this unseen exchange. He paused briefly, closing his eyes for a moment as he breathed. Without sight, the night felt even closer, wrapping around him through scent and air. Time seemed to stretch, becoming wide and unhurried. When he opened his eyes and continued, his steps felt calmer, more certain. The simple act of breathing had steadied him, drawing him further into the stillness of the walk. The path carried on, quiet and welcoming, and the night continued to offer its subtle gifts with every breath he took. The path eventually led him to a small clearing, where a simple wooden bench rested quietly beneath the open sky. It looked old, worn smooth by time and weather, yet steady and welcoming. Moonlight settled across its surface, softening its edges and inviting a pause. He approached without hurry and sat down gently, allowing his weight to sink into the solid support beneath him. The bench felt cool and firm, grounding him in the moment. For the first time in a while, he was not moving, and the stillness felt complete rather than empty. Around him, the night remained calm and attentive. The air was still, carrying only the faintest movement of leaves somewhere in the distance. His breathing slowed naturally, deep and unforced, matching the quiet rhythm of the world around him. He rested his hands loosely, feeling the texture of the wood beneath his fingers. It held the subtle warmth of the day, a reminder of sunlight long gone, but not forgotten. There was comfort in this small connection to something enduring and familiar. Sitting there, he allowed his thoughts to drift freely. They came without weight, without urgency, passing through his awareness like gentle waves. Nothing demanded response. Nothing needed to be solved. The moon continued its silent watch above, casting a steady glow that neither faded nor intensified. Shadows lay calmly at his feet, unmoving, as if even they had chosen to rest. Time seemed to lose its shape on the bench. Moments blended together, uncounted and unmeasured. He felt supported not only by the wood beneath him, but by the stillness itself. Eventually, he leaned forward and stood slowly, careful not to disturb the calm he had found. The bench remained behind, quiet and patient, ready to offer rest to anyone who might need it. With a final unspoken gratitude, he returned to the path, carrying the deep, settled calm with him as he continued onward. As he moved away from the bench, the night felt softer still, as if it had opened a quiet space within him. His steps were slow and unforced, and with each one, memories began to surface. Not sharply, not with urgency, but gently, like images reflected on calm water. They appeared, without warning, yet without weight. Simple moments from the past drifted into his awareness. A quiet afternoon, a familiar sound, a feeling once held and then released. There was no ache attached to them, no pull backward. They existed as they were, complete and calm. He welcomed them without holding on. Each memory arrived, lingered briefly, then faded, making room for the next. There was comfort in this gentle passing, in knowing that the past could be visited without reopening old doors. The moonlight seemed to soften everything it touched, including these recollections. Edges blurred, details faded, leaving only warmth behind. What once might have stirred emotion now rested quietly, settled into acceptance. His breathing remained slow and steady as the memories flowed. They did not interrupt his walk. Instead, they moved alongside him, keeping pace, as if acknowledging the present without demanding attention. At times, a faint smile formed, not from joy or sadness, but from recognition. These were parts of his story, no longer heavy, no longer unresolved. They belonged, yet they did not bind him. As the memories thinned, the night gently reclaimed his full awareness. The path ahead returned to focus, calm and steady under the moon. He felt lighter, as if something had quietly been set down without effort. With nothing left to revisit, he continued forward, grounded in the present, carrying only the ease that remained. The path opened slightly, and without intention, his gaze lifted toward the sky. Among the wide spread of darkness and distant lights, one star stood out, clear, steady, and quietly bright. It did not shine fiercely, nor did it compete with the moon. It simply remained, present and calm. He slowed to a stop, allowing his attention to rest there. The star felt close in its clarity, even from such a distance. It held its place without effort, without movement, offering a quiet sense of constancy. The surrounding sky felt vast, yet the presence of that single light made it feel welcoming rather than endless. He found comfort in its simplicity. It reminded him that something small could still be enough, that brightness did not need to be overwhelming to be seen. As he watched, the star did not change. Clouds drifted gently nearby, but it remained visible, patient and unbothered. There was something deeply soothing in that steadiness, in the way it existed without demand. He breathed slowly, feeling a quiet alignment between himself and that distant point of light. Both were simply there, sharing the same night, the same moment, without expectation. For a while, nothing else mattered. The path, the walk, even time itself seemed to pause. The star remained, and so did he, connected by attention alone. Eventually, his gaze lowered, but the calm stayed with him. The star did not fade from memory. It settled quietly within, a small reminder carried forward. He resumed walking, steps unhurried, the night wide and gentle. Around him, and somewhere above, the star continued to shine, unchanged. After standing still beneath the open sky, he felt the gentle pull of movement return. Not as a push, not as a need, but as a natural continuation. His body responded first, shifting its weight softly, as if remembering how to move without effort. He took a step forward, then another. The rhythm of walking returned, slower than before, more aware. Each movement felt intentional, yet free from thought. The ground received his steps quietly, and the night adjusted around him without resistance. His arms moved gently at his sides, following the calm pace his body had chosen. His breath flowed evenly, rising and falling in harmony with his steps. There was no separation between motion and stillness now. Both existed together, balanced and calm. As he walked, the moonlight continued to guide him, steady and unchanging. Shadows shifted in soft patterns, stretching and fading without urgency. Everything responded to his movement with quiet acceptance. The act of walking felt different now. It was no longer about reaching or passing through. It had become a simple expression of presence, a way of remaining connected to the moment without effort. Thoughts were few and distant. Awareness rested in the movement itself, the gentle roll of each step, the subtle shift of balance, the quiet certainty of forward motion. Nothing else was required. With each step, calm deepened rather than faded. Movement did not disturb the stillness he had found. It carried it forward with him. He continued along the path, unhurried and centered, allowing motion to flow naturally as the night welcomed him onward. The stone beneath his feet slowly gave way to a softer path. Grass stretched ahead, gently illuminated by the moon, its surface smooth and quiet. The earth felt different here, cooler, more forgiving, as if it were inviting him to slow even further. Each step pressed lightly into the grass, and it responded without sound. There was no echo, no sharpness, only a muted sense of contact that traveled gently through his body. The softness beneath him encouraged ease, reminding him that not every path needed to be firm or defined. A thin layer of dew clung to the blades of grass, catching the moonlight in tiny scattered reflections. They shimmered faintly, then faded as he passed, leaving the night undisturbed behind him. He became more aware of his body now, the way his weight shifted, the subtle balance required with each step. Movement felt careful but not tense, deliberate yet relaxed. The ground supported him fully, asking nothing in return. The air felt cooler near the grass, carrying a fresh, clean scent that deepened his calm. He breathed it in slowly, feeling the night settle even further within him. There was something deeply grounding about walking here. Without the firmness of stone, he trusted his steps more, listening to his body rather than the path. This quiet trust felt steady and reassuring. The grass stretched on, open and peaceful, leading him forward without direction or demand. Moonlight rested gently across the field, and the night seemed to hold him within its calm embrace. The grassy path continued beneath his feet, but something subtle had changed. It was no longer the ground or the air that held his attention. The night outside remained calm, yet the quiet he felt now seemed to come from deeper within. It settled slowly, like water finding its level. He noticed his breathing first. It had become slow and full, each inhale gentle, each exhale unhurried. There was no effort involved, no intention to control it. His body had found its own rhythm, steady and reassuring, as if it remembered something simple it had always known. With every step, a soft stillness spread through him. It moved gradually, from his shoulders, down his arms, through his chest, and into his legs. Muscles that once held tension released it without resistance. There was no signal to let go. Letting go simply happened. Thoughts grew quieter, not because they were pushed away, but because they no longer needed to speak. When one appeared, it felt distant, almost transparent, passing through without leaving a trace. Silence filled the spaces between them, wide and comfortable. The moon remained above, its light unchanged, but he was less aware of it now. Not because it had faded, but because his attention no longer reached outward. It rested gently inside, settled and still. His steps continued, but they felt automatic, effortless. He did not think about where he was placing his feet. His body moved with quiet confidence, guided by something deeper than direction. Walking had become a background motion, secondary to the calm that had taken its place at the center of his awareness. There was a sense of safety in this stillness, not the kind that depends on walls or distance, but a quiet assurance that nothing needed to happen. The night asked nothing of him. The path asked nothing. Even time seemed to step back, allowing the moment to remain open and unmeasured. At one point, he slowed almost to a stop, not out of intention, but because the stillness had grown so complete. For a few breaths, he barely moved. The world did not change. The calm did not break. Everything remained as it was. He realized then that the quiet he had been walking through all night was never only around him. It had been waiting inside, patient and unchanged, until the noise finally softened enough to let it surface. When he resumed his gentle pace, the stillness stayed with him. It did not fade with movement. It flowed alongside him, steady and present, a quiet companion carried within. The path continued forward, the grass whispering faintly beneath his steps. But inside, everything had grown calm, clear, and deeply at rest. The night began to change in ways so subtle they were almost unnoticed. It did not announce itself, nor did it hurry. The darkness remained deep and calm, yet something within it softened, as if the world were gently preparing for rest rather than awakening. As he walked, the air felt slightly different, cooler, cleaner, carrying a quiet sense of renewal. His steps remained slow and steady, guided not by sight, but by the calm rhythm that had settled within him. The stillness he carried felt complete, undisturbed by the subtle shift around him. The moon continued its watch, though its light felt less commanding now, blending more gently with the surrounding sky. Shadows softened, their edges dissolving into the ground. Nothing disappeared. Everything simply eased. Somewhere far away, the faint suggestion of morning rested unseen. Not light, not color, just a quiet promise waiting beyond the dark. The night did not resist it. It accepted it calmly, knowing its time was not yet finished. He breathed deeply, feeling the air move through him with ease. Each breath felt restorative, like a quiet exchange between himself and the world. There was no sense of ending, only continuation. The path remained familiar beneath his feet, even as his awareness drifted inward again. Sounds were minimal now, barely present, as if the world itself were holding its breath. The calm felt wide and spacious, allowing his thoughts to settle even further. He felt no need to turn back or move forward faster. The moment was complete as it was. Time had lost its direction, flowing without pressure, without demand. As he walked, the idea of morning existed only as a gentle thought, distant and unimportant. What mattered was the softness of now, the quiet balance between night and what would come after. The path stretched ahead, calm and unchanged, and he followed it without effort, carried by the slow, peaceful transition that wrapped the world in quiet grace. The path gently curved, opening once more to the sky. He felt it before he fully noticed it, the quiet sense that something familiar was preparing to fade, not to disappear, but to step back softly, the way night always does when its work is complete. He slowed and then stopped, lifting his gaze. The moon was still there, calm and pale, resting higher than it had been before. Its light felt gentler now, less insistent, as if it were beginning to loosen its hold on the world. It had followed him without effort, without sound, for so long that its presence felt natural, almost unnoticed. He stood in silence, allowing himself this final moment of attention. The moon did not change. It did not brighten or dim suddenly. It simply remained, steady and patient, offering the same quiet companionship it always had. The ground beneath him held his shadow faintly now, softer at the edges. The contrast between light and dark had eased, blending into a calm balance. He felt no sadness in this shift. There was only acceptance, a gentle understanding that nothing needed to stay the same to be complete. A slow breath moved through him. With it came a sense of gratitude, quiet and unspoken. Not gratitude for something given, but for something shared. The silence, the guidance, the presence that asked for nothing and gave so much. He did not rush the moment. He allowed his eyes to rest on the moon, letting the image settle deeply, as if placing it somewhere safe within himself. The moon had been his guide, his witness, his quiet companion through every step of the night. Clouds drifted lazily nearby, thinning the light just enough to soften it further. The moon accepted this without resistance, unchanged in its calm. Watching it, he felt the same ease settle within him. At last, he lowered his gaze. The moon remained above, but he no longer needed to watch it. Its presence had already been carried inward, becoming part of the stillness he now held naturally. He turned back to the path, steps gentle and sure, knowing that this was not a goodbye, but a quiet pause. The moon would continue its journey, just as he would continue his own. And so, with the night easing slowly behind him, he walked on, calm and complete. The path began to feel familiar in a quiet, comforting way. Not because he recognized specific turns or landmarks, but because his body seemed to know where it was going. There was a gentle sense of return in each step, as if the night itself were guiding him home without needing direction. The air felt warmer now, carrying the faint suggestion of morning still far away. The darkness remained, but it had softened, losing its depth and weight. Everything felt closer, more contained, as though the world were slowly folding inward. His steps were unhurried, yet certain. There was no need to think about the way forward. The calm he carried within provided all the guidance he needed. Movement felt easy, natural, free from effort or thought. As he walked, small details came into focus. A familiar bend in the path, the quiet outline of nearby shapes resting in shadow. None of it demanded attention. It simply existed, steady and unchanged. The night sounds were minimal now, reduced to soft, distant reminders of life continuing quietly around him. Even these felt gentle, woven into the stillness rather than breaking it. He felt a sense of completion growing with every step. Not an ending, but a settling, like placing something carefully where it belonged. The walk had taken him outward, then inward, and now gently back again. Breathing remained slow and full. His shoulders stayed relaxed. The calm had become effortless, no longer something he noticed, but something he lived within. The idea of rest felt near, not as a goal, but as a natural next moment. There was no rush to reach it. The path would arrive when it arrived. And so he continued, guided by familiarity, quiet assurance, and the soft knowledge that home was not far now. The path slowly gave way to stillness. Without noticing the exact moment it happened, he found himself standing at the edge of something familiar. It was not marked by sound or light, but by a feeling, a gentle sense of arrival that settled naturally within him. The air here felt different, softer, warmer, as if it carried the quiet memory of shelter and rest. He paused, allowing the moment to unfold without hurry, feeling the calm of the night follow him even now. Nothing around him moved. The world seemed to rest in place, holding its breath in quiet understanding. The faint glow of night remained, but it felt distant, like a memory already beginning to fade. He took a slow step forward, then another, each one easing him further into a sense of comfort. His body responded instinctively, releasing what little tension remained. Shoulders softened, breath deepened. There was a subtle comfort in being here. Not excitement, not relief, but warmth. The kind that comes from knowing there is nothing more required. The journey had reached its natural pause. He stood quietly for a moment longer, allowing the night to settle around him one final time. The calm did not leave. It stayed, resting within him, unchanged by place or movement. When he finally turned inward, the transition felt seamless. The night outside and the quiet within blended gently, becoming one continuous stillness. The sense of arrival did not announce itself loudly. It simply existed, steady and complete, like the closing of a soft circle. And within that warmth, he remained, unhurried and at ease. The space around him felt enclosed in the most comforting way, as if the world had gently drawn a curtain to soften every edge. The light that remained was faint and calm, not bright enough to awaken thought, only enough to reassure. It rested quietly, like a final breath of the night. He moved slowly now, every action unhurried, each moment flowing naturally into the next. There was no resistance in his body, no urgency in his mind. Everything had aligned into a single, quiet rhythm. As he settled, The stillness deepened. The sounds of the world faded almost completely, leaving behind only a soft awareness of presence. His breathing became slower, fuller, moving with a steady ease that required no attention. The faint light nearby cast gentle shadows that barely moved. They did not demand his focus. They simply existed, calm and reassuring. The boundary between waking and rest softened, becoming less distinct with every breath. Thoughts drifted in and out, light and without form. They no longer connected to meaning or memory. They floated briefly, then dissolved, leaving behind open space. Silence filled that space effortlessly. His body felt heavy in the most peaceful way, supported completely, as if the ground itself were holding him without effort. Muscles released their final tension. The sensation of movement faded, replaced by deep comfort. The night outside no longer felt separate from him. It had followed him inward, settling gently within. Moonlight, once overhead, now existed only as a quiet impression, soft and distant. Time lost its shape. Moments blended into one another, smooth and unbroken. There was no sense of waiting, no anticipation, only rest unfolding naturally. With each slow breath, awareness dimmed slightly, like light fading at the end of a calm day. The world remained safe, steady, and quiet. And then, without noticing when it happened, he drifted fully into rest, carried gently by the calm he had gathered along the way. The calm did not end with rest. It deepened. Somewhere between awareness and sleep, he found himself floating in a quiet space where nothing needed definition. His breathing continued, slow and steady, like a gentle tide moving in and out without reaching a shore. The body felt distant now, not gone, but light. Sensations softened until they barely registered. The surface beneath him provided support without reminder, holding him effortlessly, allowing everything else to fade into the background. In this stillness, thoughts no longer formed complete shapes. They appeared as fragments, soft impressions, faint colors, gentle movements, never staying long enough to become stories. Each one passed through like a whisper, leaving silence behind. The quiet felt wide and open. It did not press in or close around him. Instead, it expanded gently, creating space where nothing needed to happen. Time moved differently here, stretching and thinning until it no longer mattered. There was a subtle warmth in this space, not from light or sound, but from comfort itself. It felt safe, familiar, as though he had been here many times before, even if he could not remember when. The boundary between the night outside and the calm within dissolved completely. Moonlight, paths, and distant sounds no longer existed as separate things. Everything blended into one continuous sense of peace. Breath followed breath, each one quieter than the last. Awareness softened further, loosening its hold. The mind no longer searched or questioned. It simply rested, suspended in gentle stillness. This was the pause before dreaming, the quiet moment where nothing stirs, where rest gathers itself before turning inward. Nothing needed attention. Nothing needed release. Everything was already at ease. And in that deep, unbroken calm, he remained, balanced, peaceful, and ready to drift wherever the quiet would lead next. Without effort or intention, the quiet space began to shift. Not suddenly, not clearly, but gently, like a slow change in the color of the sky just before dawn. Awareness did not return. It softened further, turning inward as the calm reshaped itself into something lighter and more fluid. Images began to form, but they were not sharp or demanding. They arrived like soft brushstrokes, pale and weightless. There was no story yet, no direction, only movement, slow and comforting, as if the mind were stretching into a deeper rest. He felt as though he were drifting, carried by a current that required no swimming. The sensation was familiar, soothing, and safe. There was no edge to this space, no beginning or end. Everything blended seamlessly, held together by quiet continuity. Light appeared, not moonlight, not sunlight, but something softer, diffuse and warm. It filled the space without casting shadows, illuminating without brightness. It felt less like seeing and more like knowing that everything was calm. The world of the walk had faded completely now. Paths, trees, and distant villages no longer existed as places. They remained only as a feeling of peace, woven into the fabric of the dream beginning to form. Sounds, if they could be called that, were distant and gentle, more like vibrations than noise. They moved slowly, wrapping around the dream without interrupting it. Silence still held the center, steady and unbroken. There was no sense of self that needed to move or decide. He simply existed within the dream, present but unburdened. The mind no longer asked questions. It rested within the unfolding calm. Time continued to lose its meaning. Moments did not pass. They expanded. The dream did not pull him forward. It held him gently, allowing rest to deepen naturally. This was the beginning, not of motion, but of surrender. A place where the mind could wander freely without thought, where rest became complete. And as the dream settled into its quiet rhythm, he drifted with it, calm and unafraid, carried deeper into gentle rest. The dream widened slowly, like a calm horizon opening without effort. There was no sudden change, no clear boundary marking where stillness ended and dreaming began. Everything expanded gently, giving space without direction. He felt surrounded by openness, not emptiness, but a quiet fullness that asked nothing of him. The dream did not require movement, yet it allowed it. It did not form scenes, yet it held presence. Everything existed in soft balance. Shapes appeared and faded without definition. They were not objects or places, only impressions, smooth curves, drifting light, a sense of motion without speed. Nothing needed form to be understood. Everything felt familiar, even without memory. The calm deepened further. Awareness did not sharpen. It softened until it felt woven into the dream itself. There was no observer and no observed, only a gentle flow, steady and unbroken. If there were emotions here, they were quiet and warm. A sense of ease, of being held without hands. The dream felt kind, patient, and wide enough to contain everything without effort. Silence remained at the center, unchanged. Around it, the dream breathed slowly, expanding and settling in an endless peaceful rhythm. Nothing intruded. Nothing pulled away. Time no longer existed as a sequence. There was no before or after, only a continuous present, calm and complete, stretching outward without limit. He drifted deeper, not downward, but inward, into the center of this wide, gentle dream. Rest wrapped around him fully now, uninterrupted and smooth. The dream did not guide him anywhere. It simply remained open, allowing stillness to deepen until even drifting felt unnecessary. And within that vast calm, he rested, secure, unhurried, and completely at ease. The dream no longer felt like a place. It had become a state, wide, gentle, and without edges. There was nothing to arrive at, and nowhere to drift away from. Everything existed in a quiet completeness that did not need form. Stillness spread evenly, not pressing in, not pulling outward. It simply was. There was no contrast here, no difference between motion and rest. Even the idea of movement softened until it lost meaning. What remained was calm in its purest form. Awareness thinned like mist under soft light. It did not disappear, but it no longer focused on anything specific. There were no thoughts to follow, no images to hold. The mind rested in openness, supported by silence that felt warm rather than empty. Breathing continued somewhere far away, slow and steady. But even that felt optional, automatic, part of a deeper rhythm that required no attention. The body existed only as a distant sense of comfort, fully supported, fully at ease. There was a feeling of expansion, not outward, but everywhere at once, as if the space itself had grown so wide that boundaries no longer mattered. Nothing began, nothing ended, everything belonged. The calm here was profound, yet gentle. It did not overwhelm, it did not fade. It held everything softly, allowing rest to deepen beyond effort or intention. If time still existed, it moved without direction. Moments did not pass. They rested alongside one another. The dream had no destination because it did not need one. It was complete exactly as it was. In this boundless stillness, nothing was missing. Nothing needed to be added. The quiet held its shape effortlessly, like a deep, calm ocean without waves. And within that vast, peaceful calm, he rested fully, unaware, unburdened, and perfectly still. The stillness remained, deep and effortless. Nothing shifted, nothing asked to be noticed. The calm had reached a place where it no longer needed to deepen, because it was already complete. There was no sense of self moving through this space anymore. No edges, no center. Awareness had softened into something gentle and wide, resting without form or direction. The dream no longer unfolded. It simply existed, whole and unbroken. Silence held everything together. Not an absence of sound, but a presence so steady it felt like support itself. Within it, rest settled fully, without interruption or thought. The world of before, the walk, the moon, the path, the night, had dissolved into a single feeling of peace. Nothing was lost. Everything had found its place within this quiet. Time no longer mattered. Whether moments passed or stood still made no difference. The calm did not change. It did not need to. Here, there was only ease, only softness, only rest. And in that complete stillness, sleep held gently, without dreams, without movement, without effort, perfect and whole. He continued walking, unhurried, allowing the softness beneath his feet to guide him deeper into stillness.